I could hear my mother's voice through the fog of medication, sharp and cold as always, cutting through the beeping monitors and hushed hospital corridor sounds like a knife through silk. "Don't waste the money on anything extraordinary," she said, her tone as casual as if she were declining an extended warranty on a toaster. "She's already cost me enough as it is." My eyelids felt like they weighed 1,000 pounds, but I forced them open just enough to see her standing beside Dr. Morrison, a clipboard in his hands and concern etched across his weathered face. The fluorescent lights above made everything look washed out, sterile, like we were all just ghosts playing at being human. "Mrs. Chen, I need you to understand what you're signing here," Dr. Morrison said, his voice strained with professional patience. "This is a do not resuscitate order. If your daughter's condition deteriorates and her heart stops—" "I understand perfectly, doctor." My mother's perfectly manicured hand reached for the pen he was holding. Red nails, freshly done. I recognized that shade. Crimson Conquest, from the luxury salon she visited every Thursday. $60 for a manicure while her daughter lay dying in a hospital bed 15 feet away. I'm not sentimental about these things. Medical costs are astronomical, and frankly, we need to be realistic about quality of life versus expense. Before we continue, tell me the city and country you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. The pen scratched across paper. That sound, that simple sound of ink on clipboard, felt like a door slamming shut on my entire existence. I wanted to scream. I wanted to sit up and grab that clipboard and throw it across the room. But the sepsis had ravaged my body for 3 days before they'd even gotten me to the hospital, and now, even breathing felt like running a marathon through broken glass. All I could do was lie there, paralyzed by weakness and disbelief, as my own mother signed away my right to be saved. "She's awake," Dr. Morrison said suddenly, his eyes meeting mine. There was pity there, deep and uncomfortable, the kind of pity that makes you want to die just to escape it. My mother turned, and for just a second, just one tiny fraction of a moment, something flickered across her face. Guilt? Shame? But it was gone so quickly I might have imagined it, replaced by her usual mask of cool indifference. "Arya, sweetheart," she said, her voice switching to that false warmth she used in public, the one that had fooled teachers, neighbors, and family friends for my entire 26 years of existence. "You're awake. How are you feeling?" Ich stared her. My throat was too dry to speak, too raw from the intubation tube they'd removed that morning. But my eyes said everything. They said, "I heard you. I heard every single word. I know exactly what you just did." She held my gaze for 3 seconds before looking away, smoothing down her designer dress, a nervous gesture I'd seen 1,000 times before. "Well, I should let you rest. I have that appointment with Richard at 3. Richard. Her new husband. Husband number 3, if anyone was counting, and I definitely was. Each one richer than the last, each one more proof that my mother viewed relationships as business transactions, investments to be leveraged for maximum return. Dr. Morrison waited until her Louboutin heels clicked away down the corridor before approaching my bedside. He pulled up a chair, something doctors never do unless the conversation is going to be serious. "Arya," he said softly, "I want you to know that I fought her on that. I told her it was unnecessary, that you're responding well to treatment, that your prognosis is actually quite good." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "But she has medical power of attorney. As your mother and your legal representative, she has the right to make these decisions." "How long?" I managed to croak out. "Until you're well enough to revoke it and establish your own medical directives? Legally, she maintains that authority as long as you're incapacitated." He leaned forward, his voice dropping even lower. "But between you and me, you're going to be fine. The antibiotics are working, your vitals are stabilizing, and I expect you'll be out of here within a week. 10 days maximum." A week. I had a week to figure out how to survive a mother who had literally just signed a form saying I wasn't worth the expense of saving. After Dr. Morrison left, I lay there staring at the ceiling tiles, counting the small holes in the acoustic panels, trying to process what had just happened. This wasn't new behavior, not really. My mother had always been cold, calculating, more concerned with appearances and bank balances than with anything resembling maternal love. But this? This crossed a line I hadn't even known existed. I thought about my childhood, about the birthday parties that never happened because they were wasteful expenses, about the college fund that mysteriously disappeared when she married husband number 2, about the trust fund for my grandmother that I'd never been able to access because my mother controlled it as trustee. I thought about my brother Marcus, who could do no wrong, whose every achievement was celebrated while mine were dismissed as expected, or not quite good enough. I thought about the family business, Chin Luxury Imports, started by my grandfather and built into an empire worth $23 million, of which I supposedly owned 30%. Supposedly. Because I'd never seen a single dividend check. Never been included in a board meeting. Never been copied on a financial statement. My mother, as executor of my grandfather's estate and company director, had always told me the same thing: when you're mature enough to handle it, darling. When you've proven yourself responsible. I was 26 years old with a master's degree in business administration and 5 years of experience in corporate finance. How much more proof did she need? My phone was on the side table, and with trembling hands, I reached for it. The movement sent sharp pains through my abdomen where the infection had been worst, but I didn't care. I pulled up my contacts and scrolled to a name I hadn't called in over a year: James Whitmore, my grandfather's oldest friend and the family lawyer. The phone rang 4 times before his familiar voice answered. Arya? Is that you? James, I whispered, my voice still rough. I need help. My godchild, are you all right? You sound terrible. I'm in St. Mary's Hospital. Sepsis. I almost died. I paused, gathering strength. And my mother just signed a DNR to save money on my medical care. The silence on the other end lasted so long I thought the call had dropped. Then, she did what? I told him everything. Every word I'd overheard, every cold calculation, every dismissive comment. By the time I finished, I could hear James breathing heavily, the way he did when he was trying to control his anger. Arya, listen to me very carefully, he said, his lawyer voice fully activated. Do not sign anything. Do not agree to anything. And most importantly, get yourself well enough to walk out of that hospital. He paused. How much do you know about your grandfather's will? Just what my mother's told me over the years. That I inherit my share when I'm responsible enough. That's not exactly accurate. I could hear papers rustling in the background. Your grandfather's will contains very specific clauses, Arya. You were supposed to receive full access to your trust fund and your company shares on your 25th birthday. That was over a year ago. The room seemed to tilt. What? Your mother has been withholding your inheritance illegally. But there's more. The will also contains a protection clause specifically designed to prevent financial abuse. If any beneficiary can prove that a family member or executor has acted against their interests with intent to cause harm, and I'd say signing a DNR to save money definitely qualifies, it triggers an immediate transfer of all assets and an investigation into fiduciary misconduct. My heart was racing now, and not from the sepsis. How fast can this happen? If we file the paperwork Monday morning? 48 hours. Maybe less. I'll need documentation, medical records, witness statements. But Arya, if we do this, there's no going back. Your mother will lose everything. Her position in the company, her control over the family trusts, her access to all the accounts she's been managing. Everything. I closed my eyes, thinking about that pen scratching across the DNR form. About 26 years of being told I wasn't good enough, wasn't worth the investment, wasn't quite what she'd hoped for. About every dismissive comment, every comparison to my perfect brother, every time she'd chosen money over me. Do it, I said. File everything. I want her to lose it all. You're sure? She tried to save money on keeping me alive, James. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Then get yourself well, Arya. Because in 48 hours, you're going to own everything she thought was hers. The next day, I felt stronger. The antibiotics were doing their job, pushing back the infection that had nearly killed me. My mother visited twice, both times staying less than 10 minutes, both times spending more time on her phone than looking at me. She brought flowers but forgot I was allergic to lilies. She asked about my comfort but didn't wait for answers. She was performing the role of concerned mother for the nurses, and doing it badly. "I've been thinking," she said during her second visit, perching on the edge of the visitor's chair like a bird ready to fly away at any moment. "When you're discharged, perhaps it would be best if you stayed with Marcus for a while. Just until you're fully recovered. Richard and I are planning a trip to the Amalfi Coast, and the house will be empty." Of course. God forbid my recovery interfere with her vacation plans. "Actually," I said, my voice stronger now, "I've already made arrangements." Her perfectly sculpted eyebrows rose a fraction. "Oh. James Whitmore has offered me his guest house. You remember James, don't you? Grandfather's lawyer." Something shifted in her expression, quick as a camera shutter. "I didn't realize you two were in touch." "We've always been in touch, Mother. He sends me a birthday card every year. Unlike some people." The barb hit home. I saw her jaw tighten, saw her fingers grip her Hermes bag a little harder. "Well, if that's what you prefer, I'll let you rest." She left without saying goodbye, her heels clicking away down the corridor in sharp, angry staccato beats. I smiled for the first time in days. James visited that evening, bringing actual flowers I could tolerate and a leather folder thick with documents. He waited until the nurse finished her rounds before spreading papers across my bed table. "Your grandfather was a very thorough man," James said, putting on his reading glasses. "He knew your mother's nature, Arya. He'd watched her go through 2 husbands, each time coming out wealthier. He loved her, but he didn't trust her. So he built in protections." He showed me page after page of clauses I'd never known existed. Provisions for financial oversight. Requirements for annual accounting. Triggers for immediate asset transfer in cases of abuse, neglect, or financial misconduct. My grandfather had essentially built a trap, just waiting for my mother to step into it. "The DNR is the key," James explained, tapping a paragraph with his pen. "It demonstrates clear intent to prioritize financial concerns over your well-being. Combined with her withholding of your inheritance and the lack of any accounting for the past year, we have more than enough to trigger the protection clause." "What happens to her?" "She loses control of the company immediately. The board will be notified that she's under investigation for fiduciary misconduct. Her personal accounts tied to the family trusts will be frozen pending audit. And you, my dear, will assume full control of your inheritance and your grandfather's shares in Chin Luxury Imports. That's 30% of a $23 million company, plus your trust fund, which has grown to approximately $4.2 million. The numbers were staggering. All that money, just sitting there while I struggled to pay student loans and rent, while my mother took vacations and bought designer clothes and married wealthy men. "When do we file?" I asked. "Monday morning, 9 a.m. The courthouse opens, we file, and by noon, the paperwork will be served. By Monday evening, your mother's world will be turned upside down." "And she has no idea this is coming?" James smiled, a rare expression on his usually serious face. "Not a clue. She thinks she's won, Arya. She thinks she's managed everything perfectly, that you're too sick and too weak to question her. That's what makes this so beautiful. She won't see it coming until it's too late." Saturday passed in a blur of medical tests and physical therapy. I was getting stronger by the hour, walking the hallways with a nurse, eating solid food, feeling life return to my body cell by cell. My mother didn't visit. Marcus did though, showing up Saturday afternoon with the kind of awkward energy he always had around hospitals. "Hey sis," he said, settling into the visitor's chair with his laptop bag. "Mom said you're doing better." "Mom's been here?" I asked, genuinely surprised. "Well no, but she called me. Asked me to check on you." He pulled out his laptop. "I brought some work. Thought I'd keep you company for a bit." This was Marcus. Well-meaning but ultimately self-absorbed, so focused on his own corporate ladder climbing that he barely noticed what happened around him. He'd inherited our father's looks and our mother's ambition, but thankfully, not her cruelty. "Marcus," I said carefully, "do you know anything about grandfather's will? About my inheritance?" He glanced up from his screen, confused. "Your inheritance?" I thought that wasn't until you were 30 or something. That's what Mother told you? Yeah. She said grandfather wanted to make sure you were settled and mature before you got access to the trust. He shrugged. Why? Is something wrong? I looked at my brother, this man who I'd grown up with but barely knew, and made a decision. Nothing's wrong. Just curious. He nodded, already back to his laptop, to his emails, to his world where everything was simple because he'd never had to fight for anything. I didn't blame him. He was a victim of our mother's manipulation too, just in a different way. She'd made him the golden child, and in doing so, had robbed him of the ability to see her clearly. Sunday morning, Dr. Morrison came by with news. I was being discharged Monday afternoon. My vitals were good, the infection was clearing, and I was stable enough to recover at home with oral antibiotics and rest. You're a fighter, he said, updating my chart. A lot of people don't bounce back from sepsis this quickly. I have something to live for, I replied, and I meant it. That afternoon, I made a list. Not a revenge list, exactly, though it probably looked like one. It was more of an inventory. Everything my mother had taken from me, everything she denied me, everything she'd used her position to withhold. The birthday parties. The college fund. The trust fund. The company shares. But also the intangibles, the approval I'd craved, the love I'd needed. The sense that I mattered to her as something more than a line item on a budget spreadsheet. By the time visiting hours ended, I had 3 pages filled with memories, each one a small cut, each one a reason why what was about to happen was necessary. James called Sunday evening with final confirmation. Everything's ready. The paperwork is drafted, the evidence is compiled, and I've briefed the company board that there will be an important announcement Monday. They think it's about restructuring. He paused. Arya, last chance. Are you absolutely certain? I thought about that DNR form. About my mother's voice saying I'd cost her enough. About the pen scratching across paper. I'm certain. Then I'll see you in court Monday morning. And Arya? Your grandfather would be proud of you. Monday morning arrived with pale sunlight through hospital windows and the taste of institutional coffee. I dressed in the clothes James had brought me, a simple but elegant suit, professional, powerful. The kind of outfit you wear when you're about to take control of your life. The discharge paperwork took until 10 a.m. James picked me up personally, driving his immaculate Mercedes through morning traffic to the courthouse downtown. We didn't talk much. There wasn't much to say. We both knew what was about to happen. The filing took 20 minutes. Papers stamped, documents submitted, fees paid. The clerk was bored, processing our petition like it was any other Monday morning paperwork. She had no idea she was handling a nuclear bomb. Process server will deliver by 1 p.m., James said as we walked back to his car. She'll be at the office for the monthly board meeting. She'll be served in front of everyone. Perfect, I said, and I meant it. We went to James's office to wait. His secretary brought tea and sandwiches that I couldn't eat. My stomach was twisted with anticipation, with fear, with something that felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, about to jump. At 1:15, James's phone rang. He answered, listened, nodded. Thank you. Yes, please send me the confirmation. He hung up and looked at me. It's done. She's been served. I imagined it, my mother in the boardroom, surrounded by executives and shareholders, the knock on the door, the process server entering with papers. I imagined her face as she read the petition. The disbelief. The shock. The slow, dawning horror as she realized what was happening. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. What the hell is going on? Mom just got served some kind of lawsuit in the middle of the board meeting. She's freaking out. Did you do this? I didn't reply. Another buzz. This time from a number I didn't recognize. You ungrateful little bitch. After everything I've done for you. You'll regret this. James saw me reading it and held out his hand. Evidence. Screenshot it and send it to me. Harassment. Threats. It all helps. More texts came in rapid succession. From my mother, from Marcus, from family friends who'd somehow already heard. The gossip network was faster than I'd expected. Chin family drama was apparently excellent entertainment for the San Francisco social circuit. At 3 p.m., James's phone rang again. This time, it was the company's interim chairman, someone the board had apparently appointed the moment my mother was served. James put it on speaker. "Mr. Whitmore, we need to understand what's happening. The board is in chaos. Victoria Chun has been removed from the building by security, and we have this petition claiming fiduciary misconduct and triggering some kind of asset transfer clause." "It's quite simple," James said calmly. "Arya Chun, as primary beneficiary of Thomas Chen's will and 30% shareholder in Chin Luxury Imports, is invoking the protection clause established by her grandfather. Mrs. Victoria Chun has violated her fiduciary duty through financial misconduct and deliberate harm to a beneficiary. As of this afternoon, Arya Chun assumes full control of her inheritance and will be attending Thursday's board meeting to address the company's future direction." Silence. "Then, I see. And the allegations of harm?" "Medical documentation will be provided. Mrs. Chun signed a do not resuscitate order on her daughter to avoid medical expenses, while Ms. Chun was critically ill with sepsis. This, combined with her illegal withholding of inheritance funds and failure to provide required accounting, triggers immediate transfer under the terms of Thomas Chen's will." More silence. "Jesus Christ." "Indeed," James said. "We'll see you Thursday." He hung up and looked at me. "Well, Arya, you're now one of the primary shareholders in a $23 million company. How does it feel?" I thought about it. It didn't feel triumphant, not yet. It felt surreal, like I was watching someone else's life unfold. "Ask me again in 48 hours. By Tuesday morning, the bank accounts had been frozen. By Tuesday afternoon, the asset transfer was complete. By Tuesday evening, my mother had called James 17 times, each call going to voicemail, each message more desperate than the last. I listened to one of them. Just one. "James, please, you have to make her understand. I can explain everything. The DNR was a mistake, I was stressed, I wasn't thinking clearly. She can't do this to me. I'm her mother. Please, call me back. We can work this out." I deleted it. Wednesday, the lawsuits started. My mother filed an emergency petition to block the asset transfer. It was denied within hours. The judge took one look at the DNR documentation and the financial records and ruled that the protection clause had been validly triggered. She tried again with a different judge. Same result. Marcus called me Wednesday evening. I answered this time. "Arya, what the hell?" His voice was a mix of confusion and anger. "Mom's saying you've stolen everything from her. That you've turned the company against her. That you've frozen her accounts. She's talking about being homeless, about losing the house. She signed a DNR to save money while I was dying, Marcus." Silence. Long, heavy silence. "What?" "I was in the hospital with sepsis. Critical condition. And she signed a form saying don't bother saving me if my heart stops because medical care was too expensive. I heard her say I'd already cost her enough." My voice was steady, calm. "So yes, I triggered the protection clause in grandfather's will. The clause he put in specifically to prevent her from financially abusing his grandchildren. And yes, she's lost control of everything she was illegally withholding from me." "Jesus, Arya." She didn't tell me any of that." "Of course she didn't. Did she tell you that I was supposed to get my inheritance over a year ago? That she's been illegally managing my trust fund and my company shares? That she's never once provided me with the accounting she's required to do annually?" "No," he said quietly. "She said you weren't ready. That you needed more time." "I'm 26, Marcus. I have a master's degree and 5 years of corporate experience. When exactly would I have been ready? 30? 40? Never." He didn't have an answer. Thursday morning, I walked into my first board meeting as a full shareholder. I'd spent the previous evening with James, reviewing company finances, understanding the business my grandfather had built. Chin Luxury Imports specialized in high-end Asian antiques and art, selling to collectors and museums worldwide. It was profitable, well managed, and had been running smoothly despite my mother's increasingly erratic leadership. The boardroom fell silent when I entered. 10 people around a mahogany table, all of them staring at me like I was a ghost. I suppose in some ways, I was. The girl they'd been told was too immature, too irresponsible, too unstable to handle her inheritance, walking in to take her rightful place. "Good morning," I said, taking my grandfather's old seat at the table. "I'm Maria Chen. Some of you may remember me from company events when I was younger. Others may only know me from whatever my mother has told you." I pulled out my portfolio, the one James and I had prepared. "I'm here to correct the record." The next 2 hours were a masterclass in corporate vindication. I presented financial analyses, showed growth projections, demonstrated my knowledge of the business. I outlined a vision for the company that expanded on my grandfather's legacy while modernizing our approach to digital markets. By the end, 3 board members were taking notes, and the interim chairman was nodding approvingly. "Ms. Chun," he said when I finished, "I think I speak for everyone when I say this is not what we expected. Your mother led us to believe." "My mother led you to believe what was convenient for her," I interrupted. "But I'm not here to dwell on the past. I'm here to secure the company's future. Now, let's talk about the expansion into the Southeast Asian market." The meeting ran until 2 p.m. When it finally ended, 4 board members stayed behind to talk privately, to ask questions, to essentially interview me for a position I already legally held. I answered every question, addressed every concern, proved over and over that I was exactly what my grandfather had believed I could be. The interim chairman shook my hand as I left. "Your grandfather would be proud," he said. "Welcome to Chun Luxury Imports, Ms. Chun." I left the building and stood on the sidewalk, breathing in the San Francisco air, feeling the weight of 3 decades of family manipulation lifting off my shoulders. My phone buzzed. Another text from my mother. "Please, Arya. We need to talk. Daughter to mother. I'll explain everything." I blocked the number. James met me for dinner that evening at a quiet restaurant in Pacific Heights. We ordered wine, and he raised his glass. "To justice," he said. "To justice," I echoed. "Your mother made one last attempt today," he said, cutting into his steak. "Tried to claim mental incapacity, that she was under duress when she signed the DNR. And the hospital provided the full recording. Turns out they record all DNR consultations for legal purposes. She was completely calm, completely competent, and completely clear about her reasoning. Quote, medical costs are astronomical, and frankly, we need to be realistic about quality of life versus expense. End quote. I sipped my wine, letting that sink in. So it's over? It's over. She has no legal recourse. The asset transfer is permanent. Your inheritance is yours, your company shares are yours, and her control over anything related to your grandfather's estate is permanently revoked. He paused. She'll still be financially comfortable. She has her prenuptial assets from her marriages, her own investments. But the family money, the company, your grandfather's legacy? That's all yours now. What about the house? I asked. The family home, the mansion in Pacific Heights where I'd grown up, was technically part of the estate. Yours, if you want it. Though I'd understand if you preferred to sell it. Lots of memories there, not all of them good. I thought about it. The house where my mother had ruled like a cold, calculating queen. Where I'd spent countless hours being told I wasn't good enough. Where she'd signed that DNR paperwork at the kitchen table, probably while drinking her morning coffee. Sell it, I said. Donate the proceeds to the children's hospital. The one that saved me when I had sepsis. James smiled. Your grandfather really would be proud. Friday morning, I woke up in James's guest house, in a bed that felt safe, in a place where nobody was calculating my worth in dollars and cents. I had emails from the company, questions about operations, requests for meetings. I had my life back, and more than that, I had power. Not just financial power. Not just financial power, though there was plenty of that. But the power of knowing my worth, of understanding that I'd survived something that should have destroyed me. My mother had tried to save money by letting me die. Instead, she'd lost everything. The irony was almost beautiful. I never saw my mother again in person. She made a few more attempts to contact me through intermediaries, through Marcus, through old family friends. Each time the message was the same: she was sorry, she'd made a mistake, she wanted to explain. But I knew better. She wasn't sorry she'd signed the DNR. She was sorry she'd gotten caught. Marcus and I eventually reconciled, though it took time. He struggled to accept what our mother had done, struggled to understand how the woman who'd praised him his entire life could be the same woman who'd valued her daughter's life in terms of medical expenses. But eventually, he came around. We had lunch, then dinner, then regular calls. He even joined the company board when a position opened up. The company thrived. Under my leadership, we expanded into digital markets, partnered with major auction houses, and grew our revenue by 38% in the first year alone. I hired new executives, implemented new policies, and built something my grandfather would have loved. And sometimes, late at night, I'd think about that hospital room. About the sound of a pen scratching across paper. About my mother's voice saying I'd cost her enough. She thought she was saving money. She thought she was making a practical decision, cutting her losses on a daughter who'd never quite lived up to her expectations. Instead, she taught me the most valuable lesson of my life: that sometimes, the only way to survive a family that sees you as an expense is to become too powerful to dismiss. My mother lost everything in 48 hours, her control, her power, her position, her legacy. And I gained everything she tried to keep from me: my inheritance. My company, my voice, my life. The DNR she signed to save money ended up costing her more than any medical bill ever could. And honestly, that's exactly what she deserved. Some people say revenge is a dish best served cold. I disagree. Revenge is best served legally, carefully, and with perfect documentation. And it tastes like victory.